everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it's been a long time since I've made a video. I have had a busy past like 2 months. I know like a whole session went by and I didn't make any videos, so I do apologize. September was a very busy month for me. There was so many things going on, and then October came and went, and just time is going by so fast. So I'm at the beginning of a new session, of course, as we all are, right? Those of us who go to Chamberlain. And I'm currently in community health. So if you don't know who I am, my name is Adrian and I am a student nurse at Chamberlain University. Right now I'm taking community, and in this video I decided we'll make this video and I will talk about both maternity and pediatrics. So in the July session I took maternity, and then in the September session I took pediatrics. So I just got done with pediatrics. I'm now in community health. So I decided to make this video to talk about both, and in the first half I'll talk about maternity, and then the second half I'll talk about pediatrics. But other than that, thank you guys so much for coming back and watching my videos, and please give this video a like and a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. On with the video. So in maternity, I took maternity in the July session. Maternity is the first like specialty course that I took. So after you take adult health, you go into the specialty courses. So like you go into maternity, pediatrics, mental health, and all these other specialties. Maternity is very straightforward. Pediatrics is a little bit more broad, because with pediatrics it's very general, and the pediatric population, they tend to suffer from the same types of diseases as adults do, but it's just pediatrics, right? Maternity is a very, very specialized, specialty. It's a specialized specialty. Like, what else can I say, right? Maternity is very straightforward, I felt. Now, whether, you think it's easy or hard, it's really up to you. I didn't find maternity to be too difficult. Like I said, it's pretty straightforward. And then I also had a really great professor, so that's probably the reason why I feel the way I feel about the course. The first thing I will say about maternity, once you get to maternity, the very first thing that we do in our courses at Chamberlain is we do a Med-Calc exam. The Med-Calc exam for maternity is like the hardest I've ever had and the hardest that I've ever taken. And so there's very particular questions that you get asked on maternity, like the Med-Calc. In maternity, you get introduced to these specific Med-Calc questions that involve calculating Pitocin drips. So make sure you look that up. Obviously at the beginning of every session, you get the preview week where you get to go into the course before, like 1 week before the course starts. I would suggest definitely preparing for the Med-Calc as much as you can, because for me, like, I ended up failing the Med-Calc the first time, and I had to take the Med-Calc a second time, which it's happened to me once or twice before. It's not new. It's not the end of the world. It's just a matter of making sure that you're well prepared. So yeah, these new questions are kind of a curveball. You do have access to a practice quiz that you get to do, and so of course, like, do the quizzes over and over and over again as many times as you can get till you get 20 out of 20. So that way when you just go and do it and you pass. So definitely keep in mind, like, the med calc for maternity is very different. For me, like, it took a while for me to get used to the med calc. So yeah, I had to make sure to prepare as much as I could. So yeah, that's definitely something at the very beginning of the course. You know, we're all used to it. We all know we have to do a med calc. So definitely prepare yourself for that med calc for sure. And then the rest of the course is very straightforward. You got EDAPs that you have to do. And then you have, in my course, in my class, we had quizzes that we would do. My teacher was really good. She would create like Kahoots to review and like study guides for the quizzes. And also for the exams. We had an RUA group project, which we always do in every class. It had to do with discharge teaching. So we had to select a topic and get in a group and create a PowerPoint teaching topic over whatever topic we chose. You know, there were ATI assignments. We had exams. For me, one of the things that I started doing for exams, and this is a pretty new study topic, or this is a pretty new way of studying that I started doing for myself, is when it comes to studying for exams, of course, like, the professor would give us like a concept list to use, and so that's what I would, you know, focus on, is whatever is on the concept list. But what I would do is I would go on Quizlet and find practice questions pertaining to the exam. So I would go and I would find Quizlets that had practice questions with rationales. And what I would do is I would highlight the whole page and print the whole page out. And then what I would do is I would study and review those questions and rationales. And so what I like to do is I actually like to print out those Quizlet questions, and I would highlight and take notes and review, you know, those questions. And then of course I would use, you know, whatever books or resources I would have. And so for maternity, and this is something I always do, is I always purchase the ATI books. And so you can actually buy these books on Amazon, and you can buy them used, and that's what I always do. You can access these books for free through ATI, but for me, I actually like to have the physical hard copy of the books because that's just how I am. And so the ATI book is really good because it really breaks down every concept. It breaks it down, and, you know, it's just easier to study, in my opinion. I would also use the actual textbook as well. And actually my professor, and this is, you know, my professor from my class, she would lecture with the textbook in front of her, and so she would always refer to the textbook. But definitely the ATI books are also really good to study. And so if you have a concept list, you can go through the ATI book and find every topic from the concept list, and you can study from there, highlight from there, you know, study from the from the PowerPoint, study from, you know, the textbook itself, just whatever you can, whatever works for you. But like I said, I think the real core way of studying that really worked for me was definitely studying questions, like review questions and practice questions from Quizlet and ATI as well. So that's like a really good thing to do. I really don't have anything else to say about the class itself. Like I said, it was all pretty straightforward, and maternity, I found it very interesting. Like, I would definitely say, like, if you already have an interest in maternity, or you want to be a labor and delivery nurse, or, you know, I don't know, a NICU nurse as well, like, this is definitely a class that you'll definitely enjoy. So yeah, definitely find your ways of studying. Those are the ways that I studied for this class. But other than that, you should be fine. So for clinical for maternity, of course, I got to go to a hospital, and I got to go to the maternity, you know, ward. And so for maternity, we had 4 clinicals, and the first clinical day, we got to go to, we were split up. There were 4 people in my clinical group, and 2 of us would go to antepartum, and then the other 2 would go to postpartum. And so that's kind of how it worked for us. Some people got to go, in other hospitals, got to go to the NICU. For whatever reason, at the hospital we were at, we were not allowed to go into the NICU. But in other clinicals, people got to go to the NICU, which is really cool. So for me, I got to do 2 clinical days in antepartum and then 2 clinical days in postpartum. And so that was a really great experience. Clinicals, I really enjoyed clinicals. My clinical instructor was wonderful. She was super nice, very, down to earth. She was very chill, which is really good. And so my very first clinical day, I was in antepartum, and I was with my nurse, and my nurse had several, I can't remember the exact number of patients that she had who were gonna get ready to deliver, but there was one that was scheduled to have a C-section. And so on my first clinical day, I got to see a C-section in the OR. And so that was just a really, really cool experience, getting to see that. And the nurses I had, they were all really, really great and wonderful. And then the second clinical day, I got to go to postpartum. And so postpartum, the mom has already delivered the baby. And so going to postpartum, that was where I got to be hands-on and learn how to assess a mom and learn how to assess a baby as well. So that was really cool. And then you get to do whatever you get to do, whether it's like drawing blood or doing heel sticks on babies and stuff like that. Like whatever you can get your hands on doing, you can do. In antepartum, definitely was the thing that I got to do was help set up the monitors for the fetal heart rate and contractions, doing stuff like that, and help the nurses prep the mom to give birth or to do a C-section. And so so you get to do a lot of cool stuff when you do clinicals in maternity. So yeah, it was great. It was really fun. And then I was like literally thinking to myself, I was like, what if I become a labor and delivery nurse? Like, I don't know, that would be kind of cool. Or a NICU nurse, those specialties are really, really great. Those nurses know a lot, and it's just a very specialized place to be. So yeah, I really enjoyed maternity. It was a great experience. It was very different. Like, for me, I work as a tech in med-surg, and up until that point, like everything that I knew about nursing was with adults and dealing with adults. You go from med-surg to maternity, and so it's just like different. Like it was very, very different, but it was just a really great experience. And then of course, just some final things. You do have your CMS, ATI CMS exam for maternity. That is pretty straightforward. The book helps a lot as well. Practice questions help a lot as well for that. And then other than that, that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say for maternity. I can't think of anything else to say. Like I said, it's all very straightforward. I'm not gonna lie. So yeah, like I said, find your way of studying and you should be fine, honestly. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so now moving on to pediatrics. Pediatrics is it's a very specialized course. The thing about pediatrics though, is I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, was that pediatrics is very broad compared to maternity, simply because the way I would describe pediatrics is it's kind of like a mini med-surg, because as you go through the course in pediatrics, you hit every body system. So you hit on like respiratory, cardiac, endocrine, cancer. And so you hit all of these different body systems as you go through the course, and you learn about all these diseases that affect the pediatric population specifically. And so pediatrics, I would say, is a little bit more challenging because you're learning a lot of different things. There's a lot of information that you get, that gets thrown at you in a small course. So pediatrics is definitely a little bit more challenging. It's still, I would say, somewhat straightforward, but it's much more broad. And so once again, at the very beginning, you have your med calc. And so when you do your med calc for pediatrics, you focus on med calc equations that you have to convert kilograms or pounds to kilograms and all of that, and weight-based calculations. So once again, make sure you review your med calc. Make sure you review it thoroughly before you go and take your med calc. One of the things that I would really recommend for this course, in this course you have to really familiarize yourself with vaccines and like the vaccine schedules for children and pediatrics. So like make sure you start memorizing when a child would get a particular vaccine. So yeah, this course definitely requires you to really memorize like the vaccine schedules. And then another thing about this course is that a lot of this course involves you learning about the development stages, or developmental stages, so like Erickson stages, Piaget stages. And so those are two things. So like vaccine schedules and developmental stages, those are two things that you really need to learn and memorize, because those questions about vaccines and developmental stages, those two things really get thrown at you like throughout the entire course. So those are two things that I would recommend. Like make sure you do some extra studying on those two different topics, because you're going to get questions on every test, on every quiz, about development stages and vaccines and vaccine schedules and all of those things. So so yeah, those are two things that I would recommend you really need to make sure you learn. Really make sure you study those two things. Find whatever resource you can. Of course, there are resources provided, and you got the textbook and the ATI book. And then like for vaccines, the CDC is a resource that is an official resource that's used on things like vaccine schedules and stuff. So look at the CDC website, look at pediatric vaccine schedules, and you'll find all of that information there. So once again, like as I always do for every course, is I always purchase an ATI book. Like I said, I always purchase these on Amazon, used, and they're always cheaper. And with Amazon, you can always like get these delivered pretty quickly if you have Amazon Prime. But the ATI books are really good. Of course, as I always mention, the ATI books really break down every topic, and so when it comes down to exams, you can use the ATI book to review every topic and study every topic. And with this class, same thing as I did in maternity, and in this class, like I would try to find practice questions and like through Quizlet and print them out and review them. That also worked for me in this class as well. So that's a study tip that like I mentioned in maternity. Find a Quizlet, find practice questions for pediatrics that pertain to the quiz, or that pertain to exams, and print them out and study them and go through them and review them. So that worked for me in this class as well. And in this class, like of course, like same thing, like you got EDAPS, you have ATI assignments that you have to do. We had our CMS exam. The CMS exam for Pediatrics was, I would say, was definitely the hardest CMS exam that I've ever taken. The CMS exam for pediatrics was very, it was tough. And I normally, you know, the whole class, like we always study with like practice questions and things like that. And so like all of those things helped, and you know, studying with the ATI book helped as well. In the exam that we had, the questions just seemed so much more challenging. I don't know why, but all of us, we were like, man, that was pretty tough at the end. So definitely review and study as much as you can for the CMS, like do practice questions and use your ATI book, use your textbook. You know, the CMS exam, you don't exactly know what's on it. It's just, you know, pediatrics. So yeah, just study with practice questions. I would say that definitely is probably the best thing that you can do. On the CMS itself, at the very end, we had new generation NCLEX questions. Those questions were pretty tough. They weren't that bad, I mean, but like we were not expecting them to be on the exam, and they were at the very end. So that's something that you need to look out for when you take your CMS for pediatrics. At the very end, there's like, I think there was like, I want to say there was like 10 questions. Yeah, I think there was like 10 new generation NCLEX questions at the very end. And it completely threw us all off. And so just be prepared for that, okay? Like, so for the new generation NCLEX questions, it's basically like the EDAPs that we do. So the good thing about those new generation NCLEX questions is that they provide information for you. So like they provide like the reference ranges for, you know, like blood and platelets and, you know, potassium and sodium, which are things that we know, but like they provide all the reference like the reference ranges, so you don't have to, you know, memorize everything. And then of course you just have to make sure you read carefully. So yeah, that was pretty tough, but it's definitely something that, like I'm telling you, just make sure you look out for when you do your CMS. But the CMS, like for all of us, I would definitely say like it was definitely the hardest CMS exam that we've ever taken, and so definitely make sure that you prepare extra for that as well. And then for exams, we had concept lists for exams, and you know, I would study with practice questions with Quizlet, and wherever I can find, I would use my ATI book for exams. And then we had our RUA, which for this class, our RUA was a group project that focused on ethical dilemmas pertaining to pediatrics. So, you know, it's a group project, and so you're just gonna make sure you get with your group and get that done. It's a presentation, and so we did pretty well on that. This class is definitely, one thing I would definitely say is, like I said, you get a lot of information thrown at you in this class. I would definitely say make sure that you review every topic that you can with questions to make sure that it solidifies in your head. So like over the course of 1 week, like you go to class, you go to lecture, you get all of these things thrown at you. Make sure that you go and you try to find questions pertaining to those topics. So for example, if you go to class and you are learning about, you know, like epiglottitis, for example, like make sure you try to find questions about that pertains to epiglottitis. And then, you know, you also learn about, let's say you're studying cardiac and you are learning about patent ductus arteriosus, right? Make sure you try to find questions that pertain to that specific thing. So make sure that it solidifies and that you know not only the topic, but how to answer a question about that topic as well. So that it just solidifies. other than that, that's pretty much all I have to say for pediatrics. Those are the things that come up to my mind. I don't know what else to say about pediatrics. Now on to clinical for pediatrics. Clinicals were really great. I got to go to a general hospital. Some people for pediatrics get to go to the Children's Hospital here in Houston, Texas Children's. So wherever you are, you know, sometimes you may go to a children's hospital if you are, you know, if you get the chance to go to one, or if you have one in your city. I know I've heard of like a lot of clinicals, like people go to daycare centers and stuff like that. So for me, like I got to go to a general hospital and my clinicals took place in the NICU. And so like I mentioned in maternity, I was at another hospital and we were not allowed to go to the NICU, and we were just strictly like antepartum and postpartum. Now in pediatrics, our clinicals took place at a NICU. And so we were pretty lucky because the hospital that we went to had 3 NICU levels. So there was a NICU level 3, which is like the most critical NICU, and so like the babies in that NICU have all kinds of conditions, and they have all kinds of things going on. They're very critical, they're more complex. And then there's a NICU level 2, which is a NICU that's not as critical as, you know, level 3. And then there's a level 1 NICU, which is just, you know, I don't know, a level 1 NICU, I guess. You know, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? So my clinicals, we were going between NICUs level 3 and level 2. So we had a virtual clinical, and then I think we had 2 clinicals. And so my first clinical, when I got to go in person, was the NICU level 3. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like pretty overwhelmed because this is a NICU level 3, and so this is like critical care for babies. But I had a really amazing nurse. She was a new grad and she was really eager to teach, and she was very energetic, and she explained everything. And I got to do all kinds of stuff in there. And I learned a lot, and you know, with my instructor, we assessed a little baby, and I got to listen to its heart and lungs and bowel sounds and assess, you know, the reflexes and all that. And there was a lot of very interesting cases in the unit, and then my babies in particular, you know, with my nurse, they were very interesting, you know, patients, and so that was really a great experience. I was pretty overwhelmed at first, and then I got used to it as I went along in the clinical. Being in the NICU is just completely different. Like, I'm not used to handling little babies. Like, it's just completely different. But I did enjoy it, and like I got used to it, and I just, you know, it was really, really great to be hands-on and just learn. And so we were very busy in that level 3. It was very busy, like going from one baby to the next. There was one baby that was very, very small. It was an incubator, and so it was a nurse and respiratory therapy. They were, you know, helping make sure that the baby was breathing, and so I got to see all the collaboration and just everything. It was so cool. And then the next clinical I went to, we switched, me and my classmates that were in clinical, and then I got to go to the level 2 NICU, and that one was way more like calm. It wasn't as busy as the level 3, and so in the level 2 NICU I got to like hold babies and feed them and change their diapers, and it was much more chill than the level 3. So it was really cool to experience both. And so overall, my pediatrics clinical was great. My clinical instructor was really great. She was super nice. and I had a really great time in clinical. I know, like, I've seen and I've heard of other, so here in Houston we have Texas Children's, and so we have a whole hospital dedicated to pediatrics, and so I know some people have gotten to go to that hospital, and I've gotten to go to the PICU and other specialties and other floors, you know, and the NICU as well. But for me, I got to go to the NICU. So hopefully for you guys, wherever you guys are, you know, going to school, you guys get to go to a good clinical facility for pediatrics and you get to learn. So, and you know, one of those things, once again, like if you're already interested in pediatrics, you'll definitely love pediatric clinical and you'll definitely like this class. I did find this class very interesting. So yeah, you'll definitely love this class, and you'll love both, like maternity and pediatrics, definitely. So yeah, it was very different. It was very cool. I really enjoyed it. And I think that's pretty much all I have to say for pediatrics. I think that's it. I don't know what else to say for pediatrics. So I think that's pretty much it for this video. I don't know what else to say. Thank you guys so much for coming back and watching my videos. I do apologize for making this video a whole session late, or 2 sessions late now, I guess. So yeah, I finally, after like 2 sessions and 2 classes, I decided to sit down and make a video. I do apologize for that. But just kind of like I guess an update, like if you haven't noticed, like I got my braces off. September was a very busy month. Like I got my braces off. I celebrated my birthday. I did all kinds of stuff, you know, apart from school. I went to Mexico twice. I was traveling. That's part of the reason why I took so long to make a video. In maternity was very busy. That was kind of a busy time. And then pediatrics, I was all over the place and there was so many things going on in my life. So yeah, I really wanted to make sure I got to like sit down and make a video before it's 3 sessions and 3 classes. So whatever. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for coming back. Please follow me on Instagram, and you know, feel free to send me messages. And also, I just want to say very quickly, like if you message me on Instagram, if you ask me a question or send me a message, just make sure that I just ask that you're just like straightforward. You know, like if you're gonna ask me a question, just say hey and just ask me your question. And I say that because on Instagram, you know, there's a lot of like fake Instagram accounts and everybody's trying to scam you nowadays. So I do ask, if you reach out to me on Instagram, just be straightforward, just spit it out. Like if you have a question, just spit it out. I don't know, you know, I don't know how else to say it, but yeah, like feel free to message me and I'll try to help you as best as I can. You can also send me an email if you want to as well. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching, and please give this video a like and thumbs up and subscribe, and thank you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.